Hello everyone. In this video, I will talk about best video games of each year of the 21st century, from 2000s to 2021. I singled out the best game that was the most successful of each year. Games that became worldwide hits and defined the gaming industry. Here is the list of the best video games of the 21st century starting from 2000. So without further talk, let's get started. You don't have to be a fan of hack-and-slash genre to objectively admit that Diablo 2 had a tremendous impact on the future generations of isometric H&S games that are now often even called Diablo clones because of all the similarities. The game itself is quite simple, but it implements certain solutions that make it deeper than it may appear to be at first sight. In the game, after choosing your character class, you will be able to explore the dark and ever-changing world of Tristram, killing hordes of evil enemies in the process, and picking up tons of valuable loot with randomized stats. This kind of randomization, together with unique skill trees for each class, allowed developers to create the game that encourages players to carefully craft their character build if they want to survive the highest difficulty level and face the biggest challenges the game has to offer. Games from the GTA series were always known for the amount of freedom players were given during play. You can simply ignore all the missions and walk around the town, beat other people for no apparent reason, steal a new ride, or play a game of cat and mouse with the police that at some point may want to get you busted so desperately that they will send an army with a rhino tank after you. Speaking of freedom, there are a lot of side missions you can do. Steal an ambulance and play the role of a paramedic, or jump inside a cop car and help the police chase the criminals and other wrongdoers, to name a few examples. What made this game unique when speaking of the GTA franchise is the fact that it was the first time players were able to play it in a 3D environment, making the whole experience so much more realistic. – 2002 was probably the best year for the gaming industry in the entire 21st century. Because of that, it's quite hard to choose the best game of 2002, as the competition was amazingly strong. With that being said, we decided to honor the third installment of the Elder Scrolls franchise, widely known simply as Morrowind. Just like the GTA series, Elder Scrolls games usually offer huge explorable worlds with tons of things you can do. But instead of a realistic setting, they throw you into the fantasy world, where magic is just as popular as sword arts. One of the most interesting aspects of Morrowind is character development. To become more proficient in chosen skills, you have to actually use them over and over again. The more often you do, the faster they grow, allowing you to swing your weapon more accurately, brew more powerful potions, or even jump higher. Another strong point of the game is its lore and setting. Millions of fans and most critics agree that the island of Vardenfell depicted in Morrowind is one of the most interesting game worlds in history. The game was revolutionary at the time it was released for both its gameplay, story, graphics, and soundtrack. Depending on the genre you like more, you might want to argue on this one, as 2003 was also the year when Need for Speed Underground appeared on the market. We decided to go with Star Wars KOTOR, however, as we believe it's not only the ultimate Star Wars experience, but also one of the best role-playing games ever created. And it says a lot when you take into account it's a title from 2003. There's tons of character development, a combat probability system, and a giant inventory to manage, so I guess KOTOR gets clearance as a role-playing game. But as both an RPG and a Star Wars title, it strikes a marvelous balance of hardcore authenticity and accessibility for the uninitiated. Pen and paper players can check the log of dice rolls used to calculate the success rate of every trigger pull or lightsaber swing. Freddy fanboy can geek out for hours at how well the Yawa language has been adapted for a video game. And even the coolest of the cool hip kids will be able to see the appeal of swinging double lightsabers and choking fools from across the room. It all begins with a rock-solid story that really does begin a long time ago. There are multiple side missions that will help expand your understanding of the story as well. It grabs you early on by giving your character some cool toys to play with and some familiar Star Wars critters to welcome you back, and next thing you know you've got a spaceship, a lightsaber, a Wookiee, and a droid. With Knights of the Old Republic, the galaxy's yours. Get out there and get some. 2004 was also a good year for the gaming industry, but picking the best game of 2004 is not particularly hard. Half-Life 2 was meant to redefine the first-person shooter genre by focusing more on physics and non-player characters, and it did amazingly well. It shares a lot of similarities with the first Half-Life, but it has better graphics and it was made using a newer engine. Once again, you will be playing as Gordon Freeman wearing his legendary hazmat suit that features tons of useful utilities, such as a radio, a compass, tracking devices, and a Geiger counter. The sequel starts with a meeting with a mysterious G-Man and follows the events of the predecessor. Opening a portal to a dimension of hostile aliens attracted the forces of Combine that conquered the Earth in a few hours, forcing Gordon to find a way to deal with a new threat. – 2005 was a year in which many successful games were released, including the fourth installment of Civilization, but we decided to pick something entirely different and unique: Shadow of the Colossus. The game focused on fighting huge and powerful creatures, demanding battles that require exploiting enemy weaknesses, an explorable world that can be traveled on the back of your trusty horse. Shadow of the Colossus focuses on boss battles, with bosses being huge monsters you can even climb on. These bosses can't be defeated by usual means, but they have their weaknesses, forcing you to find them and use them against the creatures. Killing the creatures has its purpose. The plot revolves around your character wanting to revive a young girl named Mono, and the only way to do so is to ask Dorman, a mysterious entity, for help. However, Dorman won't help you until you fulfill his wish, which is to slay all colossi, and here your journey begins. This is a hard choice, as one could argue that the best game of 2006 was Company of Heroes, a very successful World War II real-time strategy game that is quite popular even today. But we had to choose Okami instead, as it was one of the more unique titles available at that time. Classical Japan setting with multiple references to Japanese mythology and folklore, unique art style and graphics, gesture system that is used to perform various actions. The game lets you control a fox called Amaterasu as she tries to save the land from the darkness. The title is a mix of exploration, combat, and puzzle solving and reminds games such as The Legend of Zelda. Okami stands out from the crowd because of the unique art style, known as inkwash painting, that helps to immerse more into a world of Japanese mythology and folklore. It also utilizes a gesture drawing system that can be used to perform actions, from slicing through the enemies to manipulate objects by drawing certain shapes. The title of the best game of 2007 goes to BioShock, although there are multiple other possible choices, such as Mass Effect and Portal, just to name a few. BioShock combines fantastic gameplay with a great story and wonderful scenery, making it a title worth giving a try even after all those years. Set in the dystopian underwater city of Rapture in 1960, a first-person shooter with stealth elements and superpowers, a thrilling and unsettling atmosphere where enemies can lurk around any corner. It's dark, it's thrilling, and it manages to surprise players in a variety of ways. The claustrophobic setting makes things even more horrifying. You are trapped in the underwater city of Rapture, and you have to find the way out. During your adventure, you will be able to learn the history of the place you're in and discover the reason behind the city's seemingly abandoned state. The best game of 2008 is undoubtedly Fallout 3, period. The game is set in an alternative post-apocalyptic version of the Earth that suffered from a nuclear war. Post-apocalyptic setting with action taking place in a scaled region of Washington, and its surroundings, an open-world environment that encourages exploration, robust character development, and moral consequences with a karma system. It presents players with a vast number of opportunities as they explore the inhospitable open-world environment while trying to survive the dangers in the form of mutated creatures, other survivors, and the environment itself. To increase the chances of success, you will need to level up your character and learn new skills, hopefully making it easier to overcome the challenges awaiting you in the wilderness. 2009 brought some interesting titles to the table, including the sequel to Assassin's Creed, beginning the Ezio trilogy, that is considered by many the best part of the entire AC franchise. That's not only due to the beautiful scenery of Renaissance Italy we'll be able to explore during our journey, but also because of the presented story and the charismatic character of Ezio himself. A huge game world of Renaissance Italy, full of gorgeous views and collectibles to be found, an intriguing and addictive story revolving around the conflict between the assassins and the Templars, focused on utilizing stealth and parkour abilities. Those who are not familiar with the series should note that the game actually is split between the past and present times. The main character here is Desmond Miles, while the assassin named Ezio is his distant ancestor. Using the machine called Animus, Desmond will relive the history in Ezio's life in the hope of gaining the knowledge needed to thwart the Templars' schemes. Fans of real-time strategies rejoice because the best game of 2010 is StarCraft II, Wings of Liberty from Blizzard Entertainment. The rules are simple. Pick your faction, build the base, recruit troops, and eliminate the opponents. But there is much more than meets the eye. It must be, or the game wouldn't even appear on this list. 3 playable races, each with its own unique units and play style, engaging gameplay, especially in multiplayer mode, a non-linear campaign that increases the game's replayability. The game revolves around 3 different races that compete for domination in the StarCraft universe. Each has its own unique units with their own abilities. To achieve success in the game, you will need to master micromanagement. Combining the strengths of different types of troops is crucial, and fast reflexes are required to outplay the enemies. Once again, there's a game from the TES franchise on the list. This time it's Skyrim, and the choice is fully justified. Because of how beautiful the game looked at the time of release, it attracted a huge number of players who never played the Elder Scrolls game before. An open-world environment with a multitude of side quests and random encounters, tons of various skills to improve and items to find, suitable for different playstyles that can be freely mixed. Even now it looks quite amazing for its age, and it can get better if you consider installing some graphics-enhancing mods. Speaking of mods, the game still has a large and active community that constantly releases the craziest modifications you can think of, so you can have plenty of fun even after fully experiencing the entire base content. Judging by the number of action role-playing games on the list, it's safe to assume that the genre is among the most popular ones. And here's yet another such game that, in our opinion, happens to be the best game of 2012, despite the initial release issues that were fixed later on: Mass Effect 3. Addictive gameplay revolving around using guns and special powers to defeat the enemies, an engaging story with multiple endings, possibility to import a character from previous games. ME3 concludes the trilogy that follows the story of Commander Shepard, an elite soldier tasked with defeating the mysterious alien race known as the Reapers. The game is played from a third-person perspective and focuses on combat and exploration. During your journey, you will visit many different planets with a unique environment, giving you the opportunity to admire various different landscapes. To fight the enemies, you will be able to use either weapons or biotic and tech powers, or any combination of these. Next on the list of the best games, we have The Last of Us, that presents the moving story set in the post-apocalyptic vision of the world that suffered an outbreak of cordyceps fungus, which decimated the civilization, and only small quarantined enclaves of people remained. Heart-touching story set in the post-apocalyptic world, the complex combat system and focus on stealth actions, superb artificial intelligence. The gameplay focuses on staying low and sneaking. Although there are weapons available in the game, the ammo is scarce, encouraging players to find an alternative way to deal with the enemies and use firearms as a last resort. Story-wise, you will be tasked with escorting a young girl named Ellie, but she's not just a simple companion. She can aid you during fights by distracting enemies or announcing the position of those remaining unseen. Divinity Original Sin also joins the list of greatest games of the 21st century. It was called by the reviewers the best classic-style RPG in years, and that's quite a feat. Turn-based combat and complex character customization can be played alone, but is designed to be played in cooperation with a friend, a convenient editor that allows players to create their own custom adventures. It's a turn-based RPG set in the fantasy universe of Divinity, offering players an epic journey full of intriguing quests and surprising encounters. One of the most interesting features of the title is the possibility to play with a friend online and argue with him through Argue System whenever some kind of choice has to be made. You can both have different views on a certain topic and may want to choose a different approach to solve the problem. In this case, your argument will be resolved by playing a fun mini-game of rock, paper, scissors. This one undeniably earned its place among the best video game of all time. The biggest and fullest RPG experience to date, especially considering 2 huge expansion packs that significantly extend the amount of in-game content. A huge open-world environment full of interesting characters, unique quests, and beautiful views. Dynamic combat that involves the use of swords, crossbows, bombs, potions, and spells. Multiple endings based on the choices players make throughout the game. The game is based on a series of fantasy novels by Polish author Andrzej Sapkowski and tells the story of a witcher, a mutated man who makes a coin by utilizing his powers to defeat dangerous beasts and undo powerful curses. In the world of Witcher, things are not white and black. Although he helps people, they are often ungrateful and treat him with contempt and distrust, seeing him as one of the dangerous creatures. Overwatch instantly became a bestseller. It's an online first-person shooter game where players pick their unique hero and then participate in dynamic team versus team matches. It's not a typical FPS, however. Heroes can belong to one of 3 different roles that make them better suited for certain tasks. A huge open-world environment full of interesting characters, unique quests, and beautiful views. Dynamic combat that involves the use of swords, crossbows, bombs, potions, and spells. Multiple endings based on the choices players make throughout the game. Tank characters are tough and focus on protecting the team from taking damage. Damage heroes focus on dealing massive bursts of damage quickly. And support heroes provide additional utility like strengthening allies' power, healing them, or performing some sort of crowd control moves. Because of this, teams are required to cooperate closely to make the best use of the individual abilities of their heroes. The title of the best game of 2017 goes to Horizon Zero Dawn, an action role-playing game where players take the role of a young huntress named Aloy, who wants to uncover her past. The task is not an easy one as the world she happens to live in is inhabited by various machine creatures. A huge open-world environment with a dynamic weather system and night-day cycle, a unique post-apocalyptic setting where the Earth is populated by machine creatures, fun and engaging combat mechanics. Although they are usually peaceful, they started to turn corrupt lately, becoming more aggressive and dangerous. As you travel the open-world environment, you will encounter dozens of different types of these creatures. Hunting them is vital for your survival, as this way you will be able to obtain valuable resources needed to craft many useful items, from ammo and pouches to antidotes and traps. Another good year that brought some interesting titles to the table. For 2018, we choose God of War, a game that follows the story of the former Greek god of war, Kratos, and his son Atreus, as they venture through dangerous places in order to fulfill Kratos' wife's last wish and spread her ashes at the highest peak of the 9 realms. Ancient Norway setting with many references to Norse mythology, combo-based combat that focuses on face-to-face melee encounters. Character development is done through learning new skills and equipment upgrades. The game is played from a third-person perspective and stands out from the crowd thanks to its combo-based combat system. God of War is based on Norse mythology, for the first time in the series, as opposed to Greek mythology that was referenced in the predecessors. This makes it a truly new and exciting experience, and a breath of fresh air that was surely needed for this long-running series. 2019 was an amazing year for gamers. We had many successful releases, so choosing just one was not an easy task. We decided to go with Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, thus giving it the title of the best game of 2019. Strongly influenced by Japanese history and Buddhist mythology, extremely high but rewarding difficulty level puts emphasis on boss battles. Those who are familiar with the From Software team know exactly what to expect from this game. Just like the famous Dark Souls franchise, Sekiro is hard, difficult, and does not forgive mistakes. You will die many times when trying to figure out how to defeat each of the demanding bosses the game throws at you, and you may feel tired and resigned at times, but don't be discouraged. The game requires patience and fast reflexes, but the feeling when you finally manage to achieve victory is totally worth it. Stellar pace and production of Persona 5 did not require adjustments and additions to its 100-hour runtime. And yet here is Persona 5 Royal, presenting the package with integral new characters as it remodels the structure, combat, and whimsical ephemera that binds them all together. Persona 5 Royal allows players to experience the story they already love in a new way without losing any of the beauty from the original game. New and old characters get their chance to shine through and steal your heart, even the ones you never expected to. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and maybe you'll even feel a sense of justice for the infamous Phantom Thieves in the end. Persona 5 was already a strong front-runner for being the best JRPG ever made, and Royal really gets me wondering what else could even compete. The excellent story and its lovable, multidimensional characters along with the challenging, tactical combat are all refined and back for another round with new surprises and new friends in tow. It has the best ratings, and there's no doubt that Persona 5 Royal is the best game of 2020.
There's no special limitations on what you do in particular, besides following the law, that is. However, I'm obligated to report.
Disco Elysium is a unique blend of noir detective fiction, traditional pen and paper RPGs, and a large helping of existentialist theory. Its twisting plot, cast of memorable characters, and sheer depth of choice combine to create an experience that begs to be played. It hits on every single one of the marks it sets out to achieve and left me yearning to spend more time in its world. Disco Elysium has a distinctive quality to its narrative, whether it's the interesting history of its world, or the mysteries surrounding the investigation, not to mention the depth and uniqueness of the many characters. It's one of the greatest story-driven experiences. It is the best-rated game of 2021 and for surely belongs to this list. These were the best games by each year, from 2000 to 2021. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.